When a billionaire's jet turned around at 3 a.m. for a single mom's plea, the shocking truth, the night air buzzed with an electric kind of tension as the sleek silhouette of a private jet contrasted sharply against the moonlit sky. This wasn't just any jet, it belonged to John Reynolds, a billionaire known for his ruthless business deals and lavish lifestyle. Yet, in a twist that startled even the most jaded observers, it suddenly looped back, wheels retracting mid-air as if heeding a siren's call. Why? For the desperate cry of a single mother, echoing like a phantom through the cold night, striking a chord of mystery and intrigue that rippled throughout the city. It all began in a small, dimly lit apartment in Denver. There sat Sarah, exhausted from the never-ending struggle of balancing work, bills, and her son's needs. A noticeable tremble in her hands betrayed her anxiety as her eyes darted nervously towards the clock. It was 3 a.m. The world outside her window was silent, but inside her mind, chaos reigned. She clutched her phone tight, her heart racing with each tick of the second hand. Could she really do this? Could she send a heartfelt message that would reach beyond her wildest dreams? As if the universe sensed her turmoil, John Reynolds was in the midst of casting off for a last-minute business trip when he received her unexpected plea. "Please," her message read, a fragile thread of hope woven through her words. "I need help. He's sick." There it was, the reason behind the billionaire's abrupt turnaround, an aching vulnerability mixed with desperation. In that split-second decision, intentions spiraled into an unimaginable narrative, tugging at heartstrings that many thought were made of steel. John, though made of money and influence, wasn't he devoid of compassion? But what gripped him? Was it the fear of lost lives, or was it the strange connection only fate could weave? As his jet altered course, whispers cascaded among the crew, eyes wide with disbelief. Is he really turning back? Murmurs swirled, hitting the airwaves like shockwaves. What could possibly compel a man of his stature to gamble with time and reputation? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the plane glided smoothly back toward the city, the tension inside grew thicker. Was it just a kind act, or was something darker at play? What awaited John in that small apartment, and what would Sarah reveal once the jet's door opened? The uncertainty loomed over both their lives like a thick fog, drawing them closer to a confrontation that would change everything. The clock was ticking, and the unknown beckoned with a chilling allure. Would destiny unite them, or tear them apart? Sarah paced the tiny living room, her heart pounding louder than the fading echoes of a past that haunted her. She could almost hear the laughter of her son, Jake, a sound so precious and piercing as it mingled with the weight of her worry. The air felt stifling, thick with anxiety. She bit her lip, her fingers staining the screen of her phone, still raw from the desperation that had driven her to send that message, praying it would reach someone with the power to save her boy. The jet's engines roared in the distance, mingling with her tumultuous thoughts. What if he didn't come? What if this was just another dead end in her life's string of disappointments? Multitudes of what-ifs swirled like vultures in her mind, circling her sanity. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Jake. He was all she had. John's mind was an amalgam of excitement and unease as the sleek aircraft sliced through the dark sky. A tingling in his gut urged him to focus. He had business to attend to, images of money and power swirling in his thoughts. Yet, every time he pondered leaving Sarah's vulnerable message behind, another voice softer, yet more compelling spoke to him. It was the voice of a man who remembered what it was like to struggle, to fight alone. Was it life, or fate, taking him back? As the jet touched down, a flood of adrenaline jolted through him. They would only have a few moments together, a breath in time where the stakes felt impossibly high. He had no idea what awaited him, but his intentions soared beyond just altruism. Could a chance encounter shake the very foundation of the man he had become? The door of the jet opened, and a flash of cool air hit him like a wave. John stepped out onto the tarmac, casting quick glances around him. The city was still, shadows stretching toward him, waiting, watching. Each step felt heavier, the ground trembling beneath the weight of an impending revelation. Meanwhile, Sarah sat on the edge of her couch, staring at the door as though it held the answers to her silent prayers. Each creak of the floorboard sent shivers down her spine. Maybe she had made a mistake. What if he was just a corporate shark? What if he didn't care? She shook her head, pushing the darkness away. Desperation had forged her bravery. She had to believe in hope, against all odds, and then, the knock came. It echoed through her chest like a gunshot, jarring her from her reverie. Time slowed, heart racing in tandem with her footsteps. She opened the door, held her breath, and found John. His imposing figure stood there, bathed in the eerie glow of the hallway light. The intensity in his eyes sent ripples of warmth and fear through her. She did not know what to say as silence stretched between them. Sarah? The name slipped through his lips, tentative yet commanding. Yes, she finally answered, her voice barely a whisper. Yet, as their eyes locked, a shiver of realization rushed over her. Somehow, this moment was not just about her plea. Their lifelines were entwined now, and before long, a chilling truth would surface, a truth that would shake them both to the core. Just then, a muffled cry echoed from the bedroom, slicing through the tension like a knife. John's expression hardened, concern flooding his features as he caught on. Is that him? The reality of the situation unfurled slowly, and she nodded, her heart plunging. What lay behind that door was about to change everything. Would they both be ready for the storm to come? The shadows deepened as the truth edged closer. The muffled cries grew louder, now blending into the shaky rhythm of Sarah's pulse. She wished she could pull Jake from wherever he was trapped into her arms, into safety. But the shadows in the small hallway felt alive, roiling with secrets neither of them had yet grasped. Follow me, she urged, her voice cracking as she turned toward the bedroom, the weight of fear pressing on her shoulders. John stepped in close behind her, his presence warm yet intense, a barrier against the encroaching darkness. As she pushed open the bedroom door, the sight that met them sent a jolt through her. Jake lay tangled in his sheets, thrashing as though caught in a nightmare. His little face was streaked with tears, and he cried for her like a lifeline from an ocean of chaos. The bed frame creaked under John's weight as he stepped in, his eyes wide with concern. Stay close, Sarah whispered, rushing to his side. She tried to soothe him, brushing the sweat-soaked hair back from his forehead. It's okay, buddy, I'm here. Her heart splintered as she took in his pale complexion, the way his small body twitched involuntarily. John's brow furrowed, his gaze darting around the room. Instinctively, he absorbed the chaotic scene, the scattered toys, the half-drawn curtains, the air thick with a tension that was palpable. What's happening to him? I don't know. She stammered, panic threatening to swallow her whole. He's been acting strange since yesterday. I thought it was just a phase, but now Sarah, listen to me, he interrupted, his voice steady amidst her turmoil. Focus. You need to open the door to let the light in. She glanced at him, confusion and desperation mixing in her eyes. But his calmness sparked a flicker of hope. What do you mean? Not just the physical door, he said, glancing at Jake before lowering his voice. Whatever is haunting him, you have to face it. You brought me here for a reason. Let us find out what's going on. Taking a deep breath, Sarah turned her attention back to Jake. She squeezed his small hands in hers, trying to ground him. Jake, sweetie, can you hear me? It's Mom. I'm right here. The cries softened slightly, more of a whimper now. His little brows knitted together, but his eyes began to search. She pushed past her frantic thoughts and focused solely on him. Can you tell me what you're scared of? Jake's body stilled for just a moment, and then he spoke in a tiny voice laced with fear. Mom, the shadows, they're coming. The chill clawed its way down Sarah's spine. The shadows. She hadn't wanted to acknowledge the whispers that crawled through her own mind. John's eyes met hers, a silent agreement passing between them. They couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Shadows, John pondered, more to himself than to Sarah. What do you think they mean? Jake's gaze darted back to the doorway, his breath quickening. Please don't let them take me. No one's taking you. I promise, Sarah breathed, her voice now fierce. You're safe with me. But with those words, she felt the ground shift beneath her as she realized something monumental. It wasn't just fear affecting Jake, there was something darker, something feeding off the energy in the room. John's eyes widened, understanding dawning as he caught the rising tension. Sarah, there's more to this than we thought, he said, urgency slicing through his words. We need to confront this together, or we risk losing him, both of you. The room felt colder, the shadows creeping closer, but she couldn't turn back now. The stakes had never been higher. Then we face it, she said fiercely. Whatever it is, together. John nodded, steeling himself, and they readied to confront the terror lurking just out of sight. But as they stepped closer, a sudden crash echoed from the living room. The sudden thud pulled them away from their resolve and deep into uncertainty. What was waiting just outside the door? The air thickened with dread, and for Sarah, it became clear, the storms of the past were far from over. What awaited them could shift their lives forever. Would they be able to face both the shadows and the truth and survive? The crash reverberated through the house, sending a wave of terror rolling up Sarah's spine. She froze momentarily, the breath caught in her throat, her instincts flaring. Jake continued to whimper softly, having latched onto her fingers like a lifeline. Stay here, she whispered, stepping toward the door, an unshakable urge to protect her child surging within her. But John reached out, gripping her arm. No, not alone. We stick together, he insisted, his voice low but edged with steely resolve. With a nod, they crept toward the living room, hearts thudding in unison. Every step felt like a minefield, each creak of the floor amplifying the stillness around them. The shadows seemed to pulse with energy, the atmosphere thickening as if it were alive with anticipation. Do you think it could be? John trailed off, his eyes scanning the dim space ahead of them. Something supernatural? Can't be, Sarah said, the words barely escaping her lips. Just a random accident, right? Though deep down, a gnawing worry took root. Her voice betrayed her uncertainty. As they approached the doorframe, a flicker of light caught Sarah's eye. Something shifted in the shadows, a dark shape, skimming just beyond the edge of visibility. She stopped, fear gripping her like a vice. Jake, close your eyes, she urged, not taking her gaze off the shadow. No. He cried out, panic rising. I need to see. Trust me. Sarah shot back, her heart racing. She felt John beside her, his presence like a solid anchor in the storm. With a hard swallow, Sarah summoned every ounce of courage to step fully into the living room. The scene around them was fraught with unnerving silence. Broken furniture littered the floor, cushions tossed as if a fierce struggle had taken place. The curtains flapped gently, despite there being no wind, an unsettling reminder of the chaos that had just erupted. Where is it? Where's the noise coming from? John muttered, squinting into the shadows pooling in the corners. He took a tentative step farther in, muscles tensed. A second crash rang out from a darkened corner, this time accompanied by a whisper indistinct but chilling. Sarah's insides twisted as she followed John's gaze. Stay right behind me, he commanded softly, leading the way toward the source. Each step felt heavier than the last, each breath sharp with unease. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, Sarah caught a glimpse of something white. It darted across the room, almost like a flash of light. Her heart raced as her instincts screamed at her to run. The shadows seemed to lunge after it, twisting like snakes in pursuit. Did you see that? She gasped, gripping Jake harder. Yes. Mom, help. He cried, his voice breaking. Before she could respond, an icy draft roared through the room, sending a chill through her bones. The overhead light flickered violently. In that instant, the darkness gathered, coiling around them like a predator closing in on its prey. We have to go. John shouted, but before they could retreat, a figure emerged from the shadows, just barely visible. A pair of eyes glimmered, reflecting something unfathomable. Sarah's voice trembled, the fear palpable. "Come here now." But he stood frozen, eyes locked onto the shadowy figure. In that moment, Sarah realized with a jolt that the shadows weren't just concealing, they were watching. Watching them as they hovered on the brink of something monumental. The figure pulsed with an energy that made her skin crawl, and a whisper drifted through the air, chilling her further. "You can't run from the truth." With those words, dread clutched at her heart. The power of the shadows had revealed itself, and the threat was more imminent than she had ever believed. Just as she braced herself to flee, darkness surged into the room, swallowing the light whole like a tidal wave. The shadows began to swirl violently around them, pulling everything into a whirlpool of despair. "No!" Sarah screeched, but her voice was lost in the maelstrom. What was the truth that the shadows harbored? Would they be consumed by the very darkness they sought to confront? As spectral tendrils reached toward them, she knew they had just crossed a line from reality into something far more sinister. And as they fought against the tide, one question remained: who would emerge unscathed when the shadows finally unveiled their haunting secrets? The shadows tightened their grip, the oppressive darkness enveloping Sarah and Jake as if alive. Panic surged within her. She couldn't think beyond the overwhelming dread that hollowed out her chest. John's breath was hot against her ear, his presence both a comfort and a reminder of how fragile their reality had become. "Back to the kitchen," he shouted, his voice slicing through the chaos. Instinctively, Sarah turned, tucking Jake beneath her arm, shielding him from the unseen terror. With every fiber of her being, she pushed against the dark, moving backward, but it felt like wading through molasses, each step a battle. "Mom, it's gonna get us," Jake whimpered, gripping her shirt, his small body trembling. "No. We're leaving." Sarah spat, her heart pounding like a war drum. The chill seeped deeper into her bones, and somewhere behind her, the whispering intensified, a cacophony of voices, each laced with sorrow and despair. In the chaos, she caught a glimpse of the figure again, the pale eyes burning through the shadows. "You can't escape the truth," it whispered, and she felt each word like a sharp stab. "Shut up. Just shut up," she shouted, the defiance rising from somewhere within, ignited by sheer survival instinct. She could feel John pushing her, urging her toward the safety of the kitchen, but the shadows coiling around her ankles felt like chains meant to drag her back. Then, in the midst of the swirling darkness, the air shifted. A sliver of light pierced through, illuminating the far side of the room. "There!" John cried, his finger pointing toward it. They lunged toward the light, but suddenly, the shadows roared back, trapping them once more. The whispers grew into angry shouts, swirling around them like a tempest. The walls of the house began to tremble, the very foundation shaking under the weight of something ancient and wrathful. "Remember the basement? The door!" John yelled, his voice breaking through the noise. Sarah's mind raced. The basement. They could escape there. Maybe it was their last hope. "This way!" she screamed, dragging Jake along, her own fear morphing into a singular focus. They darted down the hall, the sound of their footsteps drowned by the roar of the shadows. As they reached the door, Sarah's hand fumbled for the knob, heart pounding in her ears. "Open. Open," she urged, throwing her weight against it. The door creaked, resisting her, then, with a final, desperate push, it jerked open, revealing the staircase leading down into darkness. "Quick," John urged, pushing Jake first down the steps. But the moment they were inside, the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening thud. Silence fell like a shroud. They stumbled deeper into the basement, piercing the darkness with their presence. "Do you think it's safe?" Jake trembled, his small voice breaking the eerie stillness. "I don't know," Sarah whispered, panic clawing at her throat. "We need to find a light." Glancing around, she saw old boxes stacked haphazardly and a dim light bulb swinging from the ceiling, casting weak shadows on the walls. Clenching her fists, she moved to the light switch, ready to bring their world back into focus, but before she could flip it, an icy gust swept through the basement, and a sound filled the room, an echo of laughter, twisted and malicious. "Welcome, Sarah," it hissed, its voice slithering around her. "You've finally arrived." "No," she screamed, the word escaping her like a frantic cry for help. Because she now understood, they weren't just hiding from the shadows. They were trapped in a game, the stakes higher than she ever imagined, and as the laughter continued to spiral around them, a new realization cracked within her, dawning like a storm on the horizon. What really lay behind the truth they were running from? Would the shadows finally reveal their secrets? Would they learn what it meant to confront the darkest corners of their fears? As the laughter echoed louder, a cold shiver ran down her spine. They might have been safe for the moment, but the true test was only just beginning. Just then, the light bulb flickered, casting eerie silhouettes that danced across the walls. Sarah's breath quickened as she felt the weight of the laughter pressing down on her, pulling her deeper into despair. "What do you want from us?" she yelled, trying to summon strength she didn't feel. The darkness answered with silence, thick and suffocating. Jake clung to her, his little fingers digging into her side, as if trying to find safety in her presence. She could almost hear his heart racing, mirroring her own. "Do you remember?" The voice emerged again, slithering through the shadows, coiling tightly around them. "You ignored my warning. Now, you face the consequences." "Consequences?" Sarah repeated, her voice barely above a whisper, filled with dread. What warning? What could she have possibly done to invite this darkness? She scanned the basement, desperate for anything that might help them escape. Suddenly, a cold draft burst through the narrow cracks, ruffling the papers, and dust scattered on the floor, making her skin prickle. It felt almost like a breath, alive and watching. Sarah John's voice was low, trembling. "Look." He pointed at the boxes lining the walls, each one decorated in an unsettling layer of dust. What if? Sarah snapped, trying to tear her gaze from the ever-watchful shadows. "What if we're meant to find something in there? Maybe that's how we escape." His eyes flickered with a mix of fear and determination. She cast a glance at Jake, whose eyes were wide and wet with fear, but they still had no choice. "Stay close," she demanded, pulling away from him. Cautiously, they approached the nearest box, its edges rough, aged. "It could be anything in here," she said, nervously biting her lip as she knelt, raising the lid. Dust flew into the air, cutting through the dim light. Inside, a ragged old book sat perilously atop a stack of faded photographs. Sarah picked it up, her hands shaking as she brushed off the dust. The cover was cracked and brittle, bearing an emblem she felt she recognized, but couldn't place. Was it a family crest? As she flipped it open, her breath hitched. The pages were filled with sketches, all depicting a dark figure similar to the one they'd seen before. Each sketch carried a caption, "The Keeper of Secrets." "What's that?" Jake whispered, peering over her shoulder. "It looks like a journal or a ledger." Her voice trembled. "What if it has answers?" The shadows seemed to shift, as if unnerved by her discovery. She flipped another page and gasped, seeing names listed alongside dates, entries spanning generations. Most were familiar, linked to her family tree, but one entry leaped out at her: "The Final Confrontation, March 13th. "What does that mean?" John asked, breath hitching. "I don't know," Sarah answered, her voice heavy with confusion. "But it can't be a coincidence." Then, as she continued reading, her heart sank. "This isn't just about us, it's about our past, our mistakes." Each name was tied to a tragedy, a truth hidden in darkness. Suddenly, the laughter returned, louder, more menacing than ever, and it became clear that their time was running out. "Find the door," John shouted above the din, panic rising in his voice. "If it's a game, we need to play, and the exit has to be here somewhere." The shadows pulsed restlessly like a living entity, pressing closer with each passing second, closing in on their only sliver of hope. Sarah clenched the book tightly, but uncertainty gnawed at her. What happens if we confront it? Will that be enough? "Maybe it's our only choice," John said, the fear in his eyes reflecting back her OWN.AS. Sarah moved deeper into the basement, seeking the exit. A chilling realization gripped her. What if uncovering the secrets revealed not just truths about their ancestors, but about her too? Then, a door appeared. It was hidden in the shadows, its surface eerily smooth compared to the chaos around it. She squeezed John's hand, both fear and resolve tightening within her. With one last glance at Jake, she reached for the doorknob, heart racing. But echoing through the darkness came that voice again, whispering menacingly, "You think you're ready to face the truth, but are you prepared for the consequences?" In that moment, she hesitated, knowing she could turn back, yet craving the answers that promised to unravel everything. Would they step into the unknown, or pull back from what was lurking in the shadows? What lay beyond that door could mean liberation or devastating revelation. Would she be able to navigate the peril ahead? Sarah's hand hovered over the doorknob, heat radiating through her fingertips, tension clenching her chest. Deep down, dread whispered, urging her to reconsider. What waited beyond it? Was it darkness or salvation? Jake's small voice broke through her thoughts. "Mom, please let us go." His face reflected a mixture of fear and trust, desperate for her to take action. John shifted nervously beside them, glancing at the swirling shadows that crept ever closer, as if the darkness had taken on a life of its own. "Okay," she finally breathed, barely audible above the haunting laughter that seemed to grow louder, echoing through the confines of the basement. She gripped the knob tightly, feeling its chill seep into her skin. In that moment, she knew they had to confront whatever lay behind it. With a sharp inhale, she twisted the knob. The door creaked open, revealing a cold, damp corridor beyond, shrouded in mist that seemed to pull away from the light. She felt an inexplicable pull, a force inviting her forward, whispering promises of secrets that begged to be unearthed. "Are you ready?" John asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "Ready or not, we can't stay here." She pushed through the door, her heart thrumming like a wild drum. The air shifted, thick with tension, surrounding them like a suffocating shroud. As they stepped into the corridor, the oppressive laughter receded, replaced by ominous silence, yet the shadows danced around them, twisting and curling against the faint light. The hallway stretched endlessly before them, lined with walls that seemed to pulse with every heartbeat. Jake clutched Sarah's hand, his breath quickening. "It's south, so dark, stay close," she assured him, trying to fight back her own fear. The echoes of her ancestors' mistakes surrounded them, and she felt the weight of their history pressing in. Each step felt like a descent into uncertainty, where the air crackled with electricity. Just then, they reached a fork in the corridor. To the left, a flickering light beckoned, casting eerie shadows that danced across the floor. To the right, darkness loomed, a heavy presence that seemed to hum with danger. "What do we do?" John asked, surveying the options. "Left," Sarah decided without thinking. A flickering light bore the promise of answers, of resolution. They moved toward the glow, but apprehension slithered through her veins. "But if we're wrong, let us not think about that now," John urged, his voice steady. "We need to face whatever's ahead." As they approached the light, laughter erupted again from the shadows, mocking and echoing. "You believe you found it? The truth?" The voice taunted. "What you seek might shatter you." But Sarah couldn't stop now. She had to know. They stepped into the glow, revealing a small room lined with old portraits. Her family, generations reflected in their eyes, staring back at her, seeming to judge her every move. "Look." Jake pointed to a painting at the end, an image of a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Sarah, her expression one of sorrow. Below was a plaque inscribed with a date, March 13th. No way. It can't be connected. Sarah's heart raced. When she glanced at John, his eyes mirrored her disbelief, realization crashing in. It wasn't just a coincidence. "This is about me." Suddenly, beside the painting, a door slammed shut, echoing like thunder. The laughter crescendoed, ringing out like a death knell, rattling their very bones. Frozen in fear, they spun around, minds racing. Had the door sealed off their only route back? In that split second, the shadows morphed, revealing twisted faces, coalescing into a form that was all too familiar, the dark figure from their past. "Welcome," it hissed, its voice slithering into their minds. "You've come seeking truth, but are you ready for the cost?" As Sarah stood there, torn between desires to learn, escape, or confront the fear embodied before them, she felt that all-consuming grip of destiny tightening. What price would they pay for knowledge? And could they truly face the ghosts that awaited them? The figure stepped closer, its shadow swallowing the flickering light. Each movement was deliberate, set against the backdrop of their pounding hearts. Sarah felt suffocated, as if the air around her had thickened, making it harder to breathe. "Who are you?" she demanded, though her voice trembled like a fragile leaf in a storm. "I am the keeper of secrets," it replied, a smirk curling its lips, twisting into something grotesque. "You've come to know your past. Yet, knowing carries a burden." Jake squeezed her hand tighter, his small face pale with fear. "Mom, I don't like this." "Neither do I, but we can't go back now," Sarah said, her resolve strengthening. "What do we have to do?" The figure tilted its head, eyes glinting like shards of glass. "To unravel the truth, you must offer something precious. A truth for a truth, a sacrifice for knowledge." "What kind of sacrifice?" John challenged, stepping slightly in front of Sarah and Jake, as if to protect them. "Only you can decide the value of your truth," it hissed, its voice dripping with sweet malice. "What weighs heavier? The past or your future?" The room pulsed with tension, time stretching into eternity as they processed the implications. What secrets lay entangled in their shared history? What was she willing to risk? Thoughts spiraled through Sarah's mind like erratic flames. She had come searching for answers, but now dread coiled in her stomach. Could she put her family's safety on the line? The shadows around them danced eagerly, waiting for a moment of weakness. "Only a moment of truth will unlock the future," the figure murmured, stepping back, arms outstretched like a dark wing enveloping them. "How did you find us?" John asked, voice steady but eyes darting nervously. "I know all," it replied smoothly. "Follow the echoes of despair that cling to your lineage. They led you here." Suddenly, the room began to tremble, shaking like a fragile vessel in stormy seas, ghosts swirling around them, filling the space with whispered regrets and lost hopes. "Prepare yourselves. The choice is upon you," Jake cried out, clutching his mother's side. "Make it stop. Please." With adrenaline pumping, Sarah felt the weight of her choices pressing down hard. Was she willing to unveil the horrors lurking in her family's legacy at the cost of her son's peace? "Enough. What do you want from me?" she shouted, her voice slicing through the despair, demanding authority in the chaos. The figure was momentarily taken aback. "For you, child of the past, I require the truth of your heart. Give it, and I will grant you sight beyond veils." "What if I refuse?" The figure smiled, but it wasn't a comforting one. "Then darkness claims you. All you stand for will be lost, and the laughter will be your only companion." "What does that even mean?" Her voice trembled more now, echoing her rising panic. "Face your darkness. Only then might you find your light," it replied, its voice fading like the last breath of a forgotten silhouette. The laughter rose again, mocking her, twisting through the air. They stood there, frozen in a standoff between fear and curiosity, the gravity of the unknown pulling them deeper. Just when Sarah felt like she might shatter, she caught a glimpse of the portrait from earlier, the sorrowful woman's eyes pleading with her. Was it a figment of her imagination, or the essence of a long-forgotten truth? Suddenly, the shadows swirled, and a chilling realization crept into Sarah's mind. If she didn't act, not only would they remain trapped in this nightmare, but it could spiral beyond the abyss, pulling in others people she loved. "Jake. John. What will you choose?" The figure whispered, breath cold against her skin. A heartbeat echoed, and the room held its breath, waiting for Sarah's answer. And as she steeled herself for the sacrifice, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever her choice might be, the consequences were already spiraling into motion. What truth would she uncover, and who would pay the price for her to get it? The air thickened, charging with an energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. The figure loomed closer, the shadows lengthening around it, threatening to devour every ounce of light in the room. Sarah's heart raced, each thump echoing like a drumbeat urging her to act. "Your truth," it whispered, voice weaving itself into the whispers of agony swirling in the air. "What burdens you most? Show me, and I will show you the way." An icy dread slithered down Sarah's spine. What kind of truth could she uncover? What if exposing her deepest scars only brought more pain? But beneath the fear lurked a flicker of determination, the desperate hope that revealing her truth could save them. "Mom, please. Let us just leave." Jake tightened his grip, his small body trembling against her side. "No, baby. We need to know," she replied softly, sending a reassuring glance to John. "We need to break this cycle." It felt like a reckoning. Memories flooded her mind, every mistake, every regret, the echoes of her past clawing at her insides. A sacrifice. The weight of it pressed down on her, like the heaviness of a storm cloud filled with rain ready to burst. "I'll tell you," she stammered, voice catching as she wrestled with the truth that clawed its way to the surface. "I was always running from my past. The choices I made, the people I lost. It's my fault that our family is like this." "Your burden is much deeper, child," the figure crooned, its voice thick and syrupy. "But is it enough?" She could feel the shadows lurking, growing impatient. Behind those darkened eyes lay secrets she wasn't prepared for. But perhaps it was time to confront them. With a shuddering breath, she let go of Jake's hand and took one step forward. "Many years ago, my mother was taken from me," she began, her voice wavering. "She was part of something dangerous, something evil. I don't know if she chose it or if it chose her. But it left a mark on our family, and I've felt that mark all my life. I thought I could outrun it. I thought I could protect my son." Her chest tightened as she spoke, memories clawing at her throat like hungry ghosts. "Tell me more," the figure urged, its eyes like burning coal, flickering with anticipation, but suddenly, the ground shook violently, and the room transformed into a whirlwind of distorted memories. Whispers erupted all around them, voices blending into a cacophony of fear and dread. Shadows danced erratically against the walls, forming glimpses of forgotten faces. "Mom!" Jake screamed, eyes wide with terror. "Hold on to me!" Sarah shouted, wrapping her arm tightly around him, grounding them both in this swirling tempest. John moved closer, forming a protective barrier around them. "Enough of this!" Sarah bellowed, the surge of strength coursing through her. "I'm done being afraid of my past. If it means facing the pain to protect my family, I'm willing." The figure leaned forward, its gaze penetrating. "Then share the truth of her departure. Unravel the strings that entangle your fate." Her heart raced, caught between defiance and the freeze of uncertainty. Would exposing her family's darkest secrets truly cleanse their souls, or would it drag them deeper into despair? With determination igniting her spirit, Sarah took one more breath, preparing to unearth the truth that hovered just beyond reach. What would emerge from the shadows? What haunting legacy awaited their unmasking? As her eyes closed, Sarah felt the room still, like a moment suspended in time. There was a weight on her heart, the understanding that this unraveling could either pave a path toward freedom or shatter them completely. "Are you ready to face what comes next?" the figure asked, voice smooth as silk but dark as coal, and as Sarah steeled herself, she knew one thing for certain: the time for revelations had come, and each truth uncovered would demand its toll. What price would her family pay for the answers they so desperately sought? The silent tension hung heavy in the air, thick as fog wrapping around them. Sarah's heart raced as she faced the embodiment of her darkest fears, the shadow that whispered of consequences. She felt Jake's fragile form pressed against her leg, and John's steady presence was a reassuring anchor in the storm brewing within her. "Enough games!" she shouted, her voice rising above the chaotic din. "I'm ready to face the truth." Those words echoed in the flickering light, resonating deep within her, sparking a sense of empowerment she hadn't felt in far too long. The figure leaned forward, eyes glimmering with a hunger that made her chest tight. Then share the truth of your heart. Lay bare the grief that binds you. Taking a deep breath, Sarah closed her eyes. Memories flooded back the eerie silence when her mother vanished, the way life had spiraled into chaos after her disappearance. My mother, she whispered, the name barely escaping her lips, was taken from me. I was too young to understand what was happening. All I know is that she was part of something dark, something that clung to our family like a shadow. Barely able to contain the tremor in her voice, she pressed on. There were whispers of curses, sacrifices, and I lived my whole life believing I was doomed to carry that weight. I thought protecting Jake meant shutting it all away. As her voice grew stronger, she felt the chilling presence around them shift. The shadows writhing in the corners seemed to pulse, reacting to her revelations as if awakening to a pulse of truth. Then came the real revelation, the moment that felt like pushing through a dam that had held back the flood. But I've realized that hiding from the past can't save us. It only chains us tighter. Knowing the truth, confronting the shadow, that's what we need. In that moment of clarity, the room cracked open like thunder in the night air. The figure stepped back as if struck, shadows swirling hastily to form a whirlwind that surrounded them. The atmosphere surged, restless under the weight of what she had just revealed. Very well, the voice had deepened, an echo layered with echoes not just of promise, but something darker as well. But be warned, the truth you seek will demand a price. What price? John urged, stepping forward to shield Jake. We've come this far, and we want to back down now. Fingers trembling, Sarah reached for Jake's hand, their connection serving as a lifeline through the magnitude of what lay ahead. His eyes met hers, glimmering with trust, and a fierce love ignited in her heart. We'll face it together, she whispered, squeezing his small palm. The darkness chuckled softly, weaving through the air like smoke. Then prepare yourselves, the truth awaits. With a sudden rush, the shadows pulled back, revealing an opening that glowed ominously. It felt like a door to another realm, one where ancient truths stirred. Steeling herself, Sarah took a step forward. Together, she murmured, urging Jake and John to follow. As they crossed the threshold, everything transformed around them. The room spun, colors swirling into a dizzying realm that felt at once familiar and terrifying. Suddenly, they found themselves standing in a vast, open space, filled with images of their family's past traumatic moments, moments of love and loss, unfolding like a bitter film. Watching, Sarah felt each joy and sorrow wash over her like waves crashing on the shore. Oh my God, she gasped, as she recognized her mother's features flashing in the images, her laughing eyes, her warm embrace, suddenly drowned in darker scenes. Sarah's heart ached, each glimpse a tangible reminder of the legacy that haunted her family. This is it, she breathed. All this darkness, it's from our choices, our fears. We can't hide from it anymore. With renewed determination coursing through her veins, she turned to the others. We have the power to change our future. We don't have to be bound by this. And as if in response, the figure of the keeper emerged again, now a looming presence, its twisted smile almost triumphant. You think you can reshape your fate? There are remnants of darkness that linger, maybe so, Sarah spoke defiantly, but I refuse to let our past dictate the life Jake deserves. I'll unravel these shadows, and we will find the light. The figure's malice dissipated, faced with the unyielding strength of her resolve. If your heart is true, then you may indeed shine through this darkness. In that moment, Sarah felt a weight lifted. The swirling memories dulled, the tension eased, and above the cacophony of despair, a gleam broke through, the flicker of hope ignited by the truest essence of her heart. Suddenly, warmth enveloped them, her spirit rising stronger with every deep breath. They stood firm together, arms linked, hearts aligned as one. Together, they chanted softly, echoing through the fading darkness. With that unity, Sarah poured her heart into the shadows. We are more than this darkness. We carry the strength of love and new beginnings. We claim our future, starting now. And in that declaration, the figure shrieked, shadows disbanding, dissipating into the air like ash scattered in the wind, forever vanishing. Light flooded the space around them, illuminating their surroundings until they stood amidst a radiant landscape, one that felt warm and forever tinged with their newfound freedom. In the aftermath of the storm, they found themselves back in the safety of the basement, the shadows relieved and the air lighter. Jake nestled into Sarah's side, his little fingers still gripping tightly. John stood resolutely beside them, his expression transformed from fear to fierce pride. Each heartbeat felt like a promise renewed. As they stepped toward the light, Sarah knew they had uncovered something powerful, not just a truth, but hope. The influence of their past would no longer shadow their future. With a sense of calm wrapping around them, she knew they could embrace whatever lay ahead. Now, standing at the threshold of new beginnings, Sarah turned to Jake and John, her heart swelling with love. "We did this together and we always will." The world outside the basement door gleamed with possibility, the whispers of the past fading into echoes of laughter, peace, and a bright future brimming with promise. And just as they stepped into the daylight, a sparkle glimmered through the air, affirming the strength they forged together. The shadows may have shimmered ominously in the past, but they had learned the most powerful truth of all: in unity, there was light, and love would always guide their way. Now was the moment to cherish, to embrace, and to celebrate the journey ahead. But before you leave, remember this moment. You need to subscribe now to stay with us for more incredible stories like this. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm so we can keep bringing you the best content, and flood the comments with your thoughts. Did you expect this ending? What were your favorites? Don't wait even one more second to share this journey with at least 5 friends who deserve a bit of magic in their lives. Your support means the world. Let us keep this community thriving together.